Stars of My Crown is a 1950 Western directed by the master of shadows, Jacques Tourneur. And if you're familiar with Tourneur's work, you'd probably expect a dark and serious Western, but that's actually not what this film is like at all. Joel McCrea plays an ex-Civil War veteran turned preacher who moves to a town in the West to spread the word of God to its citizens. Ironically enough, even though this film is about a preacher, it's not overly preachy about the power of God. Most of what Joel McCrea does is teach the townsfolk the importance of being a decent human being. He primarily uses the Bible and its stories to draw comparisons to the situations the townsfolk find themselves in. I'm not an overly religious person, so I was a bit skeptical going into this film, but I was glad that not all the conflicts in the story were solved by simply believing in God. The preacher did have to use his mind to come up with some clever ways to communicate to ignorant people. Sometimes solving issues doesn't mean presenting the opposite viewpoint, it means presenting the opposite viewpoint in a manner that others will comprehend and find meaning in. And honestly, I think Joel McCrea embodies this character perfectly. Every time he opens his mouth, I don't feel like he's spouting lines from a script. I really do believe he's saying words that are coming from the bottom of his heart. I've always felt that Joel McCrea was one of the most underrated actors from the classic era. From The Most Dangerous Game to Foreign Correspondent to Sullivan's Travels, he's proven that he can handle every role that he's given. And he gives it that extra something that really makes him stand out. This is easily one of my favorite roles of his. His character is so good-natured but complex enough to feel like a real person. One of the things I find fascinating about his character is that he has guns. Does he ever use them? Actually, he does, but only in strategic ways. If you watch the movie, you'll understand what I mean. That's just another element of the film I like because it allows it to stand out and lets us see something we've never seen before. I also want to highlight a young Dean Stockwell. He plays the nephew of the woman Joel McCrea marries. Stockwell looks up to McCrea as a father figure and sticks by his side to see how McCrea will solve the problems plaguing the community. I always felt Stockwell was one of the better child actors from this era, and this film shows off his acting ability perfectly. It's no wonder his career continued into his adulthood. Juano Hernandez appears in this movie, giving another amazing performance. He plays a freed slave who's doing his best to make a living in the West, but something this movie does differently is that he doesn't face overt racism. Yeah, at first glance you'd think everything was fine because everyone respects him and everyone's civil with him. But of course, everyone is really hiding it, and when they can find an excuse to reveal their racism, they take advantage of the situation. For a film this old, that's a pretty bold thing to do. Most films just show the racist characters outright, but here it's more complex, and makes it eerie to watch. Tourneur brings his sleek direction to elevate the story even further. Kind of a break from his usual style, but I think it's kind of a breath of fresh air. It's nice to see what else Tourneur was capable of. I can see why people might shy away from watching this after reading the plot, but trust me, I wasn't too hot about watching this, but once I gave it a chance, I found I really enjoyed it. So, if you just give it a chance, maybe you'll realize that this is a great movie waiting to be discovered by you.